Hey everybody. So up until now, you may have been using your cell phone or a simple computer calculator program to carry out your work in this class, but I'm hoping all that will change after this crash course tutorial in Google Sheets. Sheets is a lot like Microsoft Excel. In fact, most of what I'm going to be showing you can be done in Excel using nearly identical steps. And while Excel has a few more bells and whistles than Google Sheets, Sheets is free. I know that everyone in class has access to it, even if you're using something like a Chromebook or occasionally a cell phone to do your calculations in this class. Okay, so we all have access. In either case, the spreadsheet programs are incredibly powerful calculation tools that you can use for research ranging from environmental modeling to like a qualitative coding analysis. And it will be the main calculation tool for the next several weeks of work that we're doing in this course. All right, so while I'm sure that many of you have used spreadsheets in the past, I'm going to start with the basics here and make sure that we're all on the same page. And I'll also try to throw in a couple of pro tips, in each one of the videos here today, so that everyone, even if you're a relatively experienced spreadsheet user, can learn something new from these videos. So to begin here, you can create a new Google Sheet the same way that you would create any other document from your Google Drive. But often I'll be sharing sheets with you that already contain some information to help us along with our sort of classroom exercises and homework exercises. All right. And because I don't always want everyone working on the same sheet, you're often not going to be able to edit the sheets that I share with you. So most of the time, you're going to need to make a copy of the shared sheet before you can carry out any calculations. So when you do this, just be sure to give it a name that you'll remember. And for those of you that are using your Google Drive for much of your classwork, make sure that you give it a name and you store it someplace secure so that you can access it down the road. All right, and if we have the spreadsheet here, the spreadsheet itself is made up of basically an endless grid of cells that contain data or carry out calculations for you. Right? Each cell has its own unique location that is described by the column letters up at the top of the sheet and the row numbers that are running along the left-hand side of the sheet. For example, this cell is the B5 cell because it is in column B and it's located in row 5. This is the G10 cell because it's in column G and row 10. All right. So once we know how to navigate around a spreadsheet, the most basic thing you could do with a spreadsheet is to enter text or number data into each one of the open cells. For example, if I'm going to do a research project on paper use, I might create a column of data called monthly paper use. All I do to create the column label is select the destination cell and begin typing monthly paper use. If I hit enter, the information is stored in that location. I can also enter numeric data. For example, if I use 20 sheets of paper in a month, I could enter the number 20 into the next cell. It's worth noting that if you hit the enter key when you enter your data, Google Sheets will highlight the cell that's beneath the data that you entered. And if you hit the tab key, Google Sheets will highlight the cell that is to the right of the data that you entered. For example, I could enter another column of data here called trees per sheet. And if I hit enter, that information will be stored and the cell below will be highlighted. And in this new column of data, I could enter 1/10,000th to represent the fact that one tree can produce 10,000 sheets of paper. And if I hit tab instead of enter, the cell on the right is highlighted. This isn't super important for our classroom exercises, but it's a nice trick to know if you ever find yourself entering lots of information all at once and you want to be really efficient with it all. All right, so we've entered some data. And from here, we can use a lot of the options in the toolbar to format the information that we've input into our data sheet. If we wanted, we could bold our text, or change the size of our text, or change the color of our text. If you wanted, we could change the background of any individual cell or any group of cells. But mostly what I want to do here is to fix the fact that the title of my first column is cut off. There's too much text to fit into that single cell. So there's a couple ways to fix problems like this, but probably the most common way is to change the sizes of the rows and the columns to fit the text that we've input. So to do this, what we can do is we can hover the cursor over the border between two rows or two columns. And if we see this, we can see that the cursor will change into a double arrow shape when it's directly in between two columns or two rows. Then what you can do is click and drag to resize the rows or columns. Okay, as you can see, we can do this in either the horizontal direction or the vertical direction. And a nice pro tip here is that Sheets will automatically resize rows and columns for you with a special trick. Okay, so to do this, what you do is you first select the rows or columns that you want to resize. Then you hover your cursor over the boundary to get the double arrows. And then if you hold down the Shift key and double click your mouse, it will resize all the rows or columns that you've selected. This is a really nice way to fix, a fairly complex spreadsheet with multiple rows and columns of data all at once. Other tools that are really useful for formatting are the merge cells and the wrap text options in the format menu. Merge cells will combine several selected cells into one larger cell so that it can hold more information. And the wrap text option will allow for long lines of text to create a new line when they reach the end of a cell rather than spill over into surrounding cells. Feel free to explore these if you feel motivated. I don't think you'll need these options for class, but I use them a lot when I'm creating the spreadsheet exercises for class. There are also several formatting options for numbers. If you want, you can format data like a dollar value. If you want, you can select the % option to automatically express decimal numbers as percentages. But my favorite number formatting tools are the two buttons that control the number of decimal places that are displayed. If you highlight a cell with numbers and select the button with 2 zeros, it will increase the number of decimal places that are displayed and also round the numbers accordingly. In this case, I can add extra zeros to the end of my decimal numbers. If you highlight a cell and then select the button with 1 zero, it will decrease the number of decimal places that are displayed. As you can see, this could create a confusing situation when you're dealing with really small numbers and not showing very many decimal places. In this case, I know that I entered a number into the cell, but because I only have a couple of decimal places showing, it appears as if this value is 0. In the future, if you carry out a calculation and you're confused when you get a result of 0, this might be what's going on. You can also clear all of your text formatting by selecting clear formatting from the format menu. Or in the case of numbers, you can refer them to their default state by selecting automatic from the number formatting menu in the toolbar. As you can see, there are a bunch of other number formats in this menu, like dates and scientific notation, and these might be useful for specific applications that you have for your spreadsheet data down the road.